The full list of enchanted, iconic, and epic cards for Disney Lorcana's Whispers in the Well is out. So let's take a look at all of them together and find out what the community thinks of them from our Instagram poll. Let's do this. What's up, Illumineers? It's Mateus here, and it's time to cover the enchanted, iconic, and epic cards for Disney Lorcana's 10th set, Whispers in the Well. Whispers in the Well sticks to the formula introduced in Fable, where epic and iconic cards are still part of the different card rarities, in which the iconic cards are the hardest one to get. And as for the enchanted cards themselves, they also keep the same rainbow foil hot stamping from Fable, with the rarity symbol also having a holofoil stamp. In our opinion, this is a huge win, as it makes the card look even more premium. Whispers in the Well's selection of enchanted cards is 3 per ink type, where each ink color have received 2 character cards and either one action or item card. Finally, when it comes to the art direction for the enchanted cards for this set, according to the creative manager Edgar Paston, the enchanted cards in this set rely on dramatic lighting, like that of a fireside gathering, to place the viewer in the mysterious caverns of the Illuminary. For that to happen, the team of artists have used single source lighting to compose an eerie contrast between each character and its implied environment, giving the viewer a sense of focus and helplessness in that they too are in the dark. They are truly breathtaking, and we can't wait to take a deeper look at them together in this video. And just before we get started, as usual we ran a poll on Instagram asking the community what their favorite enchanted cards were from each ink type, and we have received over 1,500 responses. We'll be including the results of those polls at the end of each ink. And please don't forget to share your opinion in the comment section below. We'd love to hear what your thoughts are. With that said, let's take a look at these beautiful cards, starting with the enchanted ones. In Amber, we have 2 character cards and 1 item taking up the enchanted slots. The first enchanted card in Amber is Goofy Galumphing Gunshow. Goofy's expressive and concerned expression, matched with his dapper outfit, really makes this for me. We can really experience the storytelling behind this card, and I love how much of Goofy we get to see here, while the background just helps telling the narrative behind the scene. Which, quite frankly, I'm still trying to understand where this takes place, as it doesn't seem to match with the other settings we've seen for Whispers in the Well. His super rare counterpart brings us back to the well-represented Inkwell Caverns. I really love his pose in this version, but both the enchanted and super rare versions actually have very successful silhouettes as a whole. Because of all of its colors and the closer shot at Goofy, I prefer the enchanted variant. Having said that, when it comes to its source of light, even though the big red button is where all of our attention is dragged to, I feel that there is still a second source with the red light, which as a consequence, when compared to the other enchanted cards for this set, this is likely the brightest one of them all, which feels a little bit off place for this set. The second enchanted character card in Namba is the Whisper Simba King in the Making. Following the pattern for this set, we see a lot of gold elements carrying through this card, and mixing really well with all the whispers and lore book pages floating around. This is a very ethereal card, as it should be. Simba's expression is very comforting. The illustration gives us a sense that Simba is ready to be king and he is leading his way, followed by other lionesses' whispers from his pride. I really love how you can see his body fading away. This looks technically impressive. The combination of gold, yellow and purple really works here for me as well. We can also clearly see that the main source of light is coming from his chest, as if all this magic is what is making him float in the air. Simba's super rare counterpart looks at it from a different angle, where Simba is staring at us. We can also see more focus on the lore book pages floating around, better illustrating the concept of whispers. For this version, we also get to see some of his pride in the form of shadows casted on the rock behind Simba. I really like the use of lighting on this one, especially around Simba's mane. When comparing both versions, there's something about Simba's expression in the super rare version that I find that represents Simba better, while the enchanted version reminds me more of Mufasa. Perhaps the enchanted variant is what comes next, where Simba is more mature and secure of his choices as a king. And finally, the third and last enchanted card for Amber is the item, the Black Cauldron. The Black Cauldron is one of the 3 new franchises joining Disney Lorcana TCG for the first time, so it was almost an obvious choice for an enchanted treatment. This is one of those cards that really follow to a T the artistic direction for this set, with the single source of light approach where all the brightness comes from the Black Cauldron itself. This is also a great example of making an item card that at times can look boring and undesirable into something sensational and really appealing. The presence of the Cauldron-born skeletons and all of the fog and ethereal elements really pays off here, especially with the Cauldron being a little bit off-center, sharing the focus with the skeleton on the foreground. Its legendary counterpart also does a fantastic job here, and it brings the focus really fully to the Black Cauldron itself. We love the usage of the smoke breaking through the frames of the card and how well the green, dark tones and yellow goes together. It really does a great job representing how the same card can have its impact when going from a regular version to an enchanted one. Now when it comes to the results of the community poll, these changed a lot throughout the day, where initially we were very sure that the Black Cauldron will take the win. The final result, however, was with the majority of the votes for Simba with 42%, followed by a close second with Goofy at 30% and the Black Cauldron at 28%. In Amethyst we have 2 character cards and a song. The first enchanted card in Amethyst is the Horn King Wicked Ruler. Another card from the new The Black Cauldron franchise. This enchanted art is so powerful looking, and it is even cooler because it is a different interpretation of the Horn King in his Floodborn form. The main light source is coming from the Horn King's hand, and it is reflected really nicely in his chestplate and fur from his armor. If there is any personal comment to add here is that I wish that the visual language of his shield was still the same as the one from his super rare variant. The Horn King's super rare variant have his shield represented as the Black Cauldron itself, which for me was an awesome detail that got lost in his enchanted variant. I wonder if it is just not too clear on the other version, or if it is a different intention altogether. Apart from that, the super rare version have the Horn King riding a skeleton horse, and more of his evil magic coming off his hands. In general, I still prefer how imposing his pose and the framing of the card is in the enchanted version. The lighting there is insanely good. The second enchanted character card in Amethyst is Demona, Scourge of the Wyvern clan. Similarly to what we said with the Black Cauldron, the animated series Gargoyles is also joining this Lorcana TCG for the first time. As such, we get some characters such as Demona getting her own enchanted treatment. Demona looks insane and very powerful. We love the contrast of blue, grey and blue elements in the same picture. As for its light source, it seems that it's all coming from the lore book torn pages themselves. I do find, however, that when compared to its legendary counterpart, this other version does a better job telling the story of this card. Demona's pose is much more dynamic, and the presence of the Grimoron Arcana rune really helps represent the sorcery element of this card, and Demona herself. I struggle understanding the setting with the enchanted card, while the legendary one is very clear and to the point. I absolutely love the legendary version, likely one of my favorite arts for the whole of Whispers in the Well. The third and last enchanted for Amethyst is the song Can't Hold It Back Anymore. Are you surprised with this choice? I mean, by now this is almost a tradition to release an enchanted card based on Elsa somehow, and as much as every single one of them looks awesome, with one of my favorite cards ever being the enchanted Always Found, I am from the opinion that we should give the chance for other characters to start receiving the enchanted treatment. Personal opinions aside, it seems that the source of light for this card is coming from the magical icicle elements that Elsa is casting around her. Her pose is very poetic, and the framing for this card is amazing. Her rare counterpart takes it from a completely different angle, and it is more about the scene itself and her magical powers than Elsa herself. I really love the combined use of colors in the rare version, and part of me thinks that this is a stronger art overall, but I have a hard time picking one over the other. When it comes to the results of the community poll, Can't Hold It Back Anymore got the most votes with 48%, followed by the Horn King at 37%, and finally Demona at only 15%. In Emerald we have 2 character cards and a song. Webby Vanderquack Junior Prospecta is the first enchanted character card in Emerald, and her second appearance in the game. I really like that the art style for this card looks like it was made in chalk. You can see a very unique texture type of shade creating its colors. When it comes to its light source, Webby's prospecting pan is what creates the light for this scene. I really like how curious and excited she looks in this card. As for the setting itself, I personally find too dark and a little bit confusing. I wish we could see more of the Golden Lagoon here. On another hand, her legendary counterpart has the presence of white agony planks in abundance, which makes me super happy. Not to mention the Easter egg with Scrooge McDuck at the back of the card. I also find that the prospecting pan and what Webb is doing is easily understood here. Art-wise, even though I quite like the style and both drawings are beautiful, I find that both versions of this card aren't as successful as the other ones covered in this video. The second enchanted character card in Emerald is Baloo Carefree Bear. Whispers in the Well bring back some of the focus for the Jungle Book, including more versions of Baloo with his very own enchanted card. This art and the lighting is stunning, but I got to admit that I don't understand the story behind this card at all. Is Baloo inside the Inkwell Cavern, swimming in some section of the water that possesses a mysterious power? How come the fruits from his right paw are already dying, while the ones from his left paw are fresh and vibrant? And is the source of light coming from the water itself? Oh, and if you didn't notice, there's a hidden Mickey just there on the bananas. His rare counterpart, although easier to read, doesn't reveal much more about the setting and the story of it either. This is Baloo's Floodborn version, and he seems to be surrounded by this energy above his fur. But I don't understand it. The art is super cute and it does represent Baloo's personality quite well, but between both cards that doesn't personally make much sense to me, I'm a big fan of the colors and contrast of the enchanted version. How about you? And finally, the third and last enchanted card for Emerald is the song Malicious, Mean and Scary. Can I start by saying that if someone had told me that this card will get an enchanted treatment, I would have probably be the first person to not get excited about it? But when we get to see its final product, oh my god, this is so fun and full of charisma. From each of the characters' expression, to the golden motif, and the music notes flying around the card. It brings you straight to the Snuggly Duckling pub from Tangled. The scale and framing of this card is so good as well. As for the light source, it all comes from the lit candle at the bottom of the art, even though it's hard to see behind the card's description frame. This is for sure my favorite Emerald Enchanted for Whispers in the Well. Its uncommon counterpart also have a very unique art actually. This drawing style is not something we often see on these Lorcana cards, so I am all for that and I appreciate the work. But for me, unfortunately, it doesn't get even close to the finish for the Enchanted variant, which in all honesty, I don't think that's a problem. It makes a lot of sense that the Enchanted cards should feel more powerful overall. The community has cast their votes. Baloo won with 42%, followed by Malicious Mean and Scary with 38%, and in last position we have Webby with 20% of the votes. In Ruby, we have 2 character cards and an action. We talk about the addition of the Black Cauldron and Gargoyles, but a third franchise was also included for the first time in this Lorcana TCG, The Legend of Sleepy Hollow. And Ruby's first enchanted character card is no one but the Headless Horseman, Terror of Sleepy Hollow. This card brings Disney Lorcana into a brand new page, where spookiness is very welcomed. I love pretty much everything-ish about this card. Hear me out. The Headless Horseman's pose, how centered to the action he is, and all the energy emanated by his head pumpkin, it's fantastic. His source of light is also obviously coming from his head, which makes things even cooler. I love this card. What I find odd, however, is that even though you can see some hint of his horse just on the back, with his flaming eyes, I simply have a hard time to disassociate the character from his horse. I just wish we got to see more of that there. His legendary counterpart brings his horse back to the picture and plays around the card frame, breaking it through it with his flaming head. I love how much action this card brings, but am a little bit confused with the setting overall. This is not a negative comment though, just an observation. This card is also great. All that said, I love me a bit of spookiness, and I'll vote for the enchanted variant all the way. It's so good. The second enchanted character card in Ruby is also her second take with this treatment. I'm talking about Lady Tremaine's Sinister Socialite. Oh, how I love this card. Tremaine looks stunning, full of attitude, style, and presence. I'm personally a huge fan of the dotted gold elements throughout the card, especially with how much it looks like a continuation of the detailing on the Cinderella card. We'll talk about it in a bit. Talking about Cinderella, did you notice her own page floating by? Tremaine's source of light seems to be emanating from one of the lore book pages that she seems to have torn into pieces, or perhaps her own Whisper's energy coming from it. How this light drives through her facial expression and hair makes everything seem even more perfect. This is so good. Tremaine's super rare counterpart is yet another brilliant example of the storytelling of this card. This version does an even better job defining the visual language of Ruby, with very angular and chaotic shapes, which fits greatly with Lady Tremaine. Overall, I find the scarier and angrier version of Tremaine in her enchanted variant more exciting. But both cards are so good. What do you think? The last enchanted card in Ruby is the action Next Stop Olympus. This is another art style that seems quite different from the other enchanted lineup from this set, but that it still manages to find its own place on its own unique form. I love how the golden lines are all being irradiated by Hercules and his sword, creating its own source of light. There's also a lot of good storytelling going on here, potentially even hinting towards the next big villain for the third year of Disney Lorcana. The shadow and light is stunning. Its rare counterpart doesn't try changing the formula too much, and replicates the same scene, perhaps a few minutes before the enchanted version of it. The overall posing is also very exciting and strong, but I love how the enchanted version managed to create a more claustrophobic and urgent feeling with all the thorns surrounding Hercules. According to the community poll, the grand majority of the votes went for the Headless Horseman, with 65%. Next Stop Olympus and Lady Tremaine finished second and third respectively, with a very small difference of votes where the action got 18% of the votes and Tremaine got 17%. In Sapphire, we have 2 character cards and 1 action. Judy Hopps' lead detective is the first enchanted in Sapphire. I love the sense of curiosity on her face here. Her posing, outfit, and pretty much the whole thing looks spectacular. She's really convincing me that she is the detective to call when I need any help. The source of light of this card is quite obvious, and it comes from the reflection of the lantern hitting the mysterious object that Judy is finding. Judy's rare counterpart puts her in a completely different setting, while dealing with some of the whispers and torn lore book pages floating around. What I particularly like about this art is that we get to see even more details of her outfit, since the whole scene looks brighter and we see it from a different angle. I really love both versions of this card equally, but there's something very special about the drawing style of the enchanted card. The second enchanted character card in Sapphire is Cinderella Dream Come True. And can I just say that even though the Ballroom Sensation Enchanted was very iconic and a beautiful art, I personally think that this latest version knocked off the park, and it is now the prettiest depiction of Cinderella in the game so far. For me, it's a combination of the gold dotted motif, the castle forming on the foreground, and all the other pictures getting formed by these shapes, with a reference to her glass slipper, the pumpkin carriage, the butterflies, and much more. She looks stunning here. When it comes to the source of light, I find it a little bit conflicting. It seems that it isn't defined just by one source, as intended, but by all of the blue magical elements. Cinderella's legendary version manages to also do justice for this card. The intention is very similar here, with a lot of magical elements being formed in an ethereal way around Cinderella, but here she seems to be more impressed with her surrounding, when compared to the elegant posing of her enchanted version. Both arts are so well done and unique on its own. In general, I like the darker tone from the enchanted variant, but also prefer some of the elements of the legendary one, so it's very hard for me to pick one. And the third enchanted card in Sapphire is the action Spooky Sight. Can we please agree that this is probably the most beautiful enchanted card of the whole of Disney Lorcana TCG ever? This is even prettier than my previously favorite Always Found. This is going to be on my forever chase from now on. I was trying to reverse engineer why this card is so good, apart from the obviously gorgeous art, and I think it comes down to everything it represents, and also the fact that two different franchises are clashing against each other in the same scene. This is pretty much an introduction to Lorcana into the spookiness side of things, accompanied by the classic characters of Mickey, Goofy, and Donald Duck. There's so much storytelling being conveyed here, and each character really showcases their own traits. As for its source of light, this replicates the use of the fire coming from the Headless Horseman's head. Its rare counterpart seems to take place just a few minutes before the enchanted one, when the three pals are still trying to run away from the Headless Horseman. Colors are even more vibrant here, and I love that we get to see it from a different angle. Even though I also love this version of the card, nothing can beat the enchanted one for me. Oh boy, my wallet is crying already. It seems like the community had no issue casting their votes here either. Spooky Sight won with a whooping 64% of the votes, followed by Cinderella at 29% and Judy Hopps at 7%. Finishing in steel, we have two character cards and an item. Goliath, Clan Leader, is the first enchanted character card here, and the second representation of gargoyles among this lineup. The first thing we can acknowledge from the get-go, it is obvious the source of light, the Grimorum Arcanorum book. When it comes to its art direction, this might have been the most successful example of conveying this one light source technique here. But this is also where a lot of my criticisms comes from for this card. I should start by saying that this art is stunning, and the color palette used here is one of my favorites from this full lineup. But I do have a lot of very picky comments here, starting with the Grimorum Arcanorum itself. I find very odd the choice that Goliath would be attracted to this book, given his very strong ideals against sorcery in the original series. Also because the book casts such a strong light in this art, I often found hard reading Goliath's body shape and struggle understanding where his left arm started and ended. But the more I look at this art piece, the more I appreciate the small details throughout. Goliath's legendary card is very different overall, much brighter, much more aggressive, and it looks like a different Goliath altogether. I find very smart the way the character breaks the frame of the card, and I love his posing. However, I find the usage of colors very samey, and unfortunately for me, it doesn't feel as epic as it could have been. Nevertheless, it is a technically impressive piece of art. The second enchanted character card in steel is Nick Wilde, Persistent Investigator. It is only fair that Nick Wilde would also get this enchanted treatment for this set. Not only that, this card also looks like a continuation of Judy's, where they are both at the same location and even in search of the same item. Its source of light is also the same as the one for Judy's, coming from the golden object itself, and really radiating light towards Nick's face, body, and his incredibly smart outfit. Isn't he just a fox? Nick's rare counterpart takes him away from the forest and shows more of his smart head side. I actually quite like the setting here overall, and how much movement is conveyed by the torn lore book pages. This is a more traditional depiction of Nick Wilde, creating a nice contrast between the two versions of this card. Similarly to the Judy Hopps cards, I have a hard time picking one over the other. And the third and last enchanted card in steel, and also for Whispers in the Well, is the item the Sword of Hercules. Okay, please bear with me here. I don't have any negative comments about the art itself, because it is actually quite impressive really, but all my comments are about the choice for an enchanted card. This really isn't the first time that we went through this topic. Back on earlier sets where Ravensburger would often pick non-exciting locations or items to be represented as an enchanted card. And here we are again after so many sets no longer doing this. I personally have no issue when the item, action or location also have a character and other elements represented on the art itself. But as soon as the focus is simply on the object itself, unfortunately, this ends up being on the bottom of most players' wishlist, and here it is no different. Its rare counterpart shows the Sword of Hercules from another angle. There's nothing too exciting about it here, but also there's nothing wrong with that. since this is not an enchanted card, which proves the point that my argument isn't about how good the art is, but down to the choice for an enchanted slot, especially when a card like Putting Out Together or the Game's Afoot could have been chosen here instead. The community has voted, and with 6% of the votes, Goliath had finished in first, followed by Nick Wilde with 39%, and finally the Sword of Hercules with 15%. Now it's time to look at the two ethereal iconic cards for Whispers in the Well. The first is a Umber card, and one that made a lot of people in the community really happy about it. This is based on the brand new Ariel Ethereal Voice Whisper card, displayed on all marketing materials for Whispers in the Well. Given that this set is the introduction of the brand new Whisper classification and characters, it makes a lot of sense that one of the iconic cards is based on one. And because this is the representation of the classical Ariel in the blue dress, a lot of huge fans of The Little Mermaid were over the moon with this review. This iconic card does a great job making use of the ethereal elements that it's trying to convey here, with a lot of the lore book pages floating around, which we are sure that will look stunning with the golden finish now present on top of these cards. Its rare counterpart follows a very similar motif, with the same elements in the environment, but showing it all a little bit further apart, and with a more contrasted tone overall. This is just a personal opinion of mine, but I actually prefer the art of the rare version, mainly because I am a bigger fan of Ariel's pose there, and more of her silhouette and how much of her bow we get to see here. But I have no doubt that the iconic version will knock off the park, especially because of its unique finishes that only the iconic cards have. Okay, I love both of them, can I have them all? The second and last iconic card for Whispers in the Well is an Amethyst card. And guess who we have here? The one and only Hades looking for a deal. We believe that this third year of Disney Lorcana might be building around Hades and all of his villainousness, so it also makes sense that he got an iconic card. This also helped confirm that when originally introduced back in Fable, iconic cards doesn't necessarily need to represent paired characters, as a lot of us thought it would have been the case. The dark tones of this iconic card is so beautiful. I can only imagine how amazing the green fluorescent tones combined with the purple and dark blue will look like in person. I'm a huge fan of this color palette, and Hades' overall pose looks fantastic. Hades' legendary counterpart tries a more funny and charismatic approach to it. We like how much of the frame Hades breaks through with his hands, and the colors overall are quite pleasing as well. Having said that, even though we get to see more of the setting in this version of the card, I don't think the overall scene is as successful as the iconic one, especially because I like the mystery that the iconic version creates with Hades slightly behind one of the pillars. And finally, it's time to look at all 18 epic cards. Because the epic cards does not represent the card with an alternate art, we won't compare it side by side with its regular framed form. Instead, we will just go through all 18 of them back to back so you can be aware of what to expect when starting and opening all of the new Whispers in the Well products. In number, Goofy Ghost Hunter, Gaston, Frightful Bully, and the Horseman Strikes were the chosen cards to take on this epic slot. In Amethyst, we have Elsa exploring the unknown, Merlin completing his research, and the Horn King triumphant goal. For Emerald, we have Webby Vanderquack, Mystery Enthusiast, Ka, Secretive Snake, and Megara, Secret Keeper. In Ruby, Tinkerbell, Fancy Footwork, Mulan Standing Her Ground, and Aladdin Barreling Through were the selected epic cards. For Sapphire, we have Daisy Duck Ghost Finder, Kristoff Mining the Ruins, and Sudden Scare. And finally in Steel, the selected ones were Minnie Mouse Ghost Hunter, Robin Hood Ephemeral Archer, and He Hurled His Thunderbolt. And those are all the enchanted, iconic, and epic cards for Whispers in the Well. Let us know down in the comments for which cards you're going to be chasing this set. And be sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell for all of our future content. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, happy questing!